All right, so that's some of what you heard from the Provincial Commissioner of the SAPS in KwaZulu-Natal, Mkhwanazi. And just to finish off on that point where he leaves it in that clip, the meeting being arranged by the minister between himself, Mkhwanazi, and Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya. We're told it then happened, and Mkhwanazi then makes a comment earlier on today and says the proposal was that there should be peace between the two of them, Mkhwanazi and Shadrack Sibiya, and then makes the point that there can be no peace between a police officer and a criminal, an allusion and a hint that Shadrack Sibiya is actually a criminal. But as you will know, Shadrack Sibiya was on this channel earlier on, responding and speaking to Griselda Lewis, in which then some of the retort included saying that Mkhwanazi needs to stop acting like a warlord and actually act like a police officer. So clearly, no love lost between these senior police officers. Ongama Mtimka, let me go and give you one more take on this particular story. I wanted to raise this point with Mzwai a bit earlier on, and I still will, but I'd like to hear your take on it, Ongama. It seems to me that this is President Ramaphosa's equivalent of the difficulties that previous presidents have had, the headaches that they've had to deal with that have to do with either a national police commissioner or a senior commissioner within the SAPS. And I think it harks back all the way to the days of Chekiselebi. You then had the situations with Ria Piecha at some point and various others. Who can forget Richard Mdluli and all of those allegations that were made? Am I correct in drawing these parallels? And at what point do we have stability around these key positions?
Absolutely, and I think that it's the first time that he's having to deal with a minister that is alleged to have been involved in wrongdoing on a matter that's not just about administration, but affects the security of the Republic internally. So it, unfortunately, Thulas, is not one of those things where it lends itself to the vintage style of I'm going to be slow, I'm going to take my time and then strike later on. Otherwise, it would prove, in my view, that he is not worth the leadership seat that he's sitting on. You cannot have somebody who have no capability to immediately act in times of crisis in a way that reassures everybody, even if subsequently there's going to be some careful application of process and whatever the case may be. But it's not one of those. I think this is a bigger issue as far as I'm concerned. And lastly, I think, Thulas, it's important for ANC politicians in particular, because remember, this is as much about an incident as it is about culture of how office is secured and sustained in the ANC. And this complex web of networks between organized criminal elements and people higher up, it's come up very often throughout the democratic period. And I don't think that it's something that South Africans can tolerate. This is something where government collapses as a result of, and it's a good thing, and it is seen in a good light by people. They mustn't lead South Africans into that kind of temptation where, we would celebrate warlords, just to borrow from that word. I don't think Mkhwanazi is a warlord. I think he's a person who reads the moment and where South Africa is at the moment. And I think that the president needs to protect him as well as the country by making sure that he acts immediately here.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that. That's Ongama Mtimka, a political analyst, joining this conversation. Before I come to you, Chad Thomas, I want to come back to you and bring in the character and the personality of the National Police Commissioner, who doesn't seem to be central in these allegations. But before I do that, I do need to take more political reaction. Let me speak to Hanif Hendricks, who is president of the party Al-Jamaa. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So you've heard these allegations. They've come through this morning and into the afternoon. Extensive analysis in terms of what the next steps should be. What is your immediate reaction as a political party to what we heard from Police Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, Mkhwanazi?
Look, Al-Jamaa is shocked to hear about the laying of charges. And I've recently been engaged with the Minister of Police and the Deputy Minister of Police with regard to the killing fields on the Cape Flats, where just this weekend about 11 killings of young children took place. And I have been assured by the Minister of Police that they have a plan in place. And he's also told me that they had a think tank of about 20, 30 experts to deal with these matters. And I would imagine that think tank also discussed the issue of political killings and also the issue of the power of the drug lords in the country. So I'm very surprised that a charge has been laid, and I suppose that the law must now take its course. But I cannot believe that the Minister of Police is guilty of the charges that have now been leveled against him. In the light of my one-on-one discussion with him on the way forward to address the challenges that the country has with regard to so many matters, including gangs, political killings, drugs. And I am in consultation with leaders of my political party.
All right, let's allow you to settle that short. There seems to have been something that happened there with Hanif Hendricks, the president of Al-Jamaa, as he was making the point. It sounds to me as if he's making the case for giving the minister the benefit of the doubt, but I will return to him to complete that point. But before I do that, let me bring in Tebogo Khas of Public Interest South Africa. Good afternoon, Tebogo. Thank you for holding and staying on the line for us as we waded through what we needed to wade through in the last while. Your immediate reaction, your organization emphasizes the need for accountability. Well, Mkhwanazi has laid a set of allegations on the table. How do we ensure accountability in this context?
Yeah, Caesar, this is a very sad day for law enforcement and criminal justice system in South Africa. And if these allegations by General Mkhwanazi remain uninvestigated, the message is clear: the rule of law is dead, and we may just as well forget about the rule of law. What needs to be done now in terms of accountability? We believe that the president needs to act swiftly and establish such mechanisms that will be able to investigate, to go through the details of what Mr. General Mkhwanazi has shared with the public. And make no mistake, these allegations seem very credible enough, especially with them being backed by the kind of evidence that he was able to share with the media in attendance. I'm talking here about the records of the calls, conversations had between different protagonists. And if the president does not act, and I have no doubt that the president will not disappoint us, he will act just like he has done in the past, that is, act very slowly, when in fact this is an emergency. I'm sitting here, I'm still falling off my my chair since the revelations were shared publicly. And we understand that the president is a process person and he needs to ensure that processes are followed before he takes any action. But in this instance, this is a very serious allegation, especially here coming in the face of what we are, forget about the crime, the wanton crime that we are besieged by. We're talking here about a country that seeks to be removed off the grey listing. And you're asking yourself, if these allegations of international drug smuggling and money laundering are indeed true, and I believe General Mkhwanazi, it means there's a word I can't use. I use it elsewhere, but she says something. We're in trouble.
Yeah.
And we as a country need to have a president who acts with speed, just as we expect. We know that the criminals themselves will act with speed to make sure that they cover their tracks and make sure that they eliminate evidence and ensure that those who actually speak out against wrongdoing actually their job is made difficult or they're taken out of the system.
Yeah.
And with that said, we need whistleblowers and truth tellers such as General Mkhwanazi to come out and speak out. We understand it must have been difficult for him to come up publicly to share what he has with the public, because I'm sure he must have exhausted internal mechanisms to be able to address that, especially having said there was a meeting arranged with the minister and General Sibiya. With the attendance of General Masemon, and yet there was no resolution of this matter.
Yeah.
Either the president is impervious to what is happening, or he just does not care about South Africa. Forget about the national dialogue. We need a dialogue on the national security issue that is afflicting us right now.
All right. Debocha, don't go anywhere. I'll come back to you. Hanif Hendricks, let me just allow you to complete that point you were making before we lost you for a moment there. It sounded to me as if you were saying, let's give the minister the benefit of the doubt. And you are saying you're basing that on your recent interactions with Minister Senzo Mchunu?
Yes. Also, as you know, in the 6th Parliament, I served on the Joint Committee on National Intelligence, and I was involved in the budgets that was allocated to crime intelligence. As you know, as a member of that committee, information in that committee is highly confidential. However, I wasn't impressed with the presentation by crime intelligence. It looks that we need to pay special attention to the role that crime intelligence plays. We need to evaluate whether they are playing an effective role, and we need to make sure that we have an effective leadership in crime intelligence, which it seems everyone doubts at the moment.
Yes, but let's get back to that story, the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. I am still joined by my panel of experts who have been with me throughout much of this hour. But before I go to Chad, I said I sort of prepped a question for you, and I think in the delay, maybe I've given you time to just consolidate your thoughts on it. Before I get to you, let me just replay some of what Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi had to say about the importance of his commitment to the SAPS, to the badge of the SAPS. Let's take a listen.
The safety of South Africans is in jeopardy. At least Mkhwanazi still has a firearm. He still has a men and women that he works with. He can still somehow protect himself. There are men and women out there that are vulnerable. They've got no one to protect. So we can't be worried about our own safety. We must worry about the safety of the citizens. So ours is to go out there and lay our life to protect them. That is my only concern right now. Not about my safety. Everyone shall die. The time will come. If it comes, it comes. But if an enemy comes to you, attack the enemy. Don't allow the enemy to take advantage. You can't just lie with your arms in your hands like that. You have to fight. So that's what we are doing now in KZN, and we shall fight. And this fight is very big. So it needs people who are committed, people who are not worried. No, they're going to chase you. They're going to arrest you. Get out of that prison and fight. They're going to suspend. They're going to dismiss you. They can get you out of the police. When you're out of the police, join men and women in the private sector that are dedicated in dealing with this criminality and fight from outside. That's why we're calling on them to also join us to fight. That is not going to stop. So I'm not worried about my safety in as far as these investigations are concerned.
Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the fighting talk. So, Chad, that question that I sort of preempted earlier on, the voice and the leadership of the police commissioner, Fani Masemola, Granted, in the allegations that are tabled here by Lieutenant Mkhwanazi, he doesn't seem to be in the eye of the storm, the National Police Commissioner. How do you read his position in a situation where allegations are being made by a provincial commissioner that rope in a deputy national commissioner, but also the boss in the form of the minister?
Listening to Mkhwanazi again now in that replay, it was almost anxiety-inducing because he spoke literally about there being a war and that he's taking this war to them, that he cannot sit back anymore. And at the beginning of this insert that you invited me to participate in, I said it's good that this reckoning is happening. It's good that this has come out in the open now. But there's so many things that we need to look at. Number one, it seems like the police leadership is exceptionally factionalized. That you can then say is as a result of leadership. If they are so factionalized, it means that the current commissioner could not bring them in line. And although it seems like the faction that Mkhwanazi is a part of is aligned to Fani Masemola, these other factions are obviously not aligned. And we are going to see dirty tricks like we've never seen before. We're going to see disinformation campaigns like we've never seen before. But this reckoning is out there. And Mkhwanazi has done us a service by taking us as the citizenry into his confidence. He may have not followed protocol, but it's something we've been mumbling, we've heard rumors about and whispers about for long enough. And it's time that it was in the open so that it could be addressed. And the leadership of SAPS needs to be looked at. And it worries me because with it being so factionalized, the only people that are going to benefit who are rubbing their hands gleefully right now are criminals. Because organized crime can only operate when you have a disorganized police force, like we clearly have.
Let me give my panelists parting shots, opportunity to just speak one more time. Tebogo Khas, let me start with you. Among some of what came through, and I keep saying that it was a volley of allegations, the statement by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi coming through at about 11 this morning. There's another element that I've just noticed. It doesn't jump out at you, but I think it may become something of a talking point in the coming days. It relates to this person known as Brown Mkhwanazi, and the statement being made by General Mkhwanazi that, and I think it's at page 9 of his presentation from this morning, where he says the minister, that is Minister Senzo Mchunu, denied knowing Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi in Parliament, underline in Parliament. However, the minister confirmed that he knows this Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi during the telephonic conversation which was posted at Londcare 330. I don't know what that is. I think it's a social media account. What I'm alluding to is perhaps a possibility of a completely different line of inquiry that has to do with the possibility that the minister may have misled Parliament, backed up by some of the screenshots from the WhatsApp conversations that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi then shared. That complicates the picture, doesn't it?
What I really find very depressing is that not so long ago I went on TV, I don't know if it was on you or others, and I expressed how impressed I was about the police minister and his attitude towards fighting crime and the kind of programs that is put in place that involve both business and civil society organizations. And we express our support, wholly support. And I even said my enthusiasm that the first time in my life that I feel that there's something positive that will coming out of the South African police police services. If these allegations are correct, and if these allegations can be established to be true and credible, then it says a lot that what we thought we are winning, while we thought we may be winning against in our anti-crime efforts, we may actually be on a hiding next to nothing. Because if it means there's an entrenchment within the system of individuals who, one, do not possess the necessary security clearances to have access to information and systems within the crime intelligence system, such as is alleged that Mr. Brian Mkhwanazi has, it is worrisome. If it is true and correct that a magistrate has ordered somebody who's outside of the police system to actually be the one coordinating or dealing with information pertaining to the cases before court, in that instance, we've got a lot to be worried about.
All right.
It means then we may have individuals sitting closer to the levers of power, closer to the minister, actually making influences over the minister and the actions that come out of that.
All right, Deboho, let's leave it there. I've got to thank all of you for sticking it out with me. I know it's been a marathon session this afternoon, so much to wade through and try and find meaning in such a short space of time. That was Deboho Khas from Public Interest South Africa. But I was, of course, joined by Mzwandi Lembeche from here at the SABC, Ongama Mtimka, political analyst, and other experts as well, including Chad Thomas of IRS Forensic Investigations. But at this point, we have to leave it here. Thank you.